I'm so happy to have back on the show Eli Arnold. Thanks for coming back, Eli.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a while since you've been on the show, but um I always like having you on here, and I was gonna give a quick kind of context for everybody, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but you came within like several hundred votes in the last election of getting a council seat.
Yep. Just a few hundred votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um And yeah, I have a bunch of topical stuff I'm gonna go through, but could you give, you've been on the show a couple times, but give people a quick bio in case they haven't, or they're not familiar with you.
Yeah. So I'm Eli Arnold. My general background is moved to Portland 2001. I have 4 kids and I live in Selwood. I spent a long time in the Army. I worked in military intelligence and then I became a helicopter pilot. Spent a couple years in Afghanistan. Decided I want to do something different and really kind of focus on being in a place because I was constantly being forced to move, which is it's bad for kids, bad for spouse. And there's just a lot of value in. I mean, it stinks when everybody gets replaced every 2 years.
Yeah.
And also, I think just hanging out in Afghanistan got really interested in, what can we do different as a society for things to be better,
Yeah.
And so I got back. I immediately started this giant community garden in my neighborhood, and I was like, this is great, like working in your neighborhood, getting to know everybody, feeling connected. Came back to Portland and ended up becoming a police officer 9 years ago, and have worked on the Central Bike Squad downtown since then. And I think I had started to get kind of I have a naturally kind of utopian bent. I'm like a big like Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Okay. Okay.
I'm a big sci-fi guy. I like to think long term,
Okay.
which I actually think really helps because our political fights are so often about percentages. But if you can step back that far, I think Republicans and Democrats could look at something like Star Trek: The Next Generation and be like, oh yeah, that's the kind of future I'd like to see for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when when you remove yourself from the moment, maybe you can find some sort of common goals. Uh, now I lost my train of thought. But yeah,
No, it's fine. I was gonna say I didn't know you started that garden too. I've never heard.
yeah,
But that's cool.
I did the whole thing, replaced my whole yard with fruit trees and uh, garden
'Cause
beds and
because that's a lot of work. I worked for a small city one time, and I was like, and they didn't have a community garden, and I was like, why don't we start one up? And they were like, well,
yeah.
it's a lot of work and it's a lot of money, and so it's a big effort on your part to
Yeah,
help the community out.
that neighborhood I was in had all this unused land because it could flood during hurricanes.
Okay.
And so FEMA and the city had basically like removed the old housing that had been there and let it sit.
It
But
was
so our
just,
neighborhood had like 5 acres of unused land.
wow.
So I just went and asked him, "Can we have this?"
Yeah.
And built something, and I mean it was a great experience.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that the utopian thoughts
Hmm.
uh, unmoored from the difficulties of like ground level reality can sort of be problematic. So when I started working as a police officer, it was like, oh, we can't maintain the roads and stop people from smoking drugs at the library. We have little things that we need to
Mm,
fix before we're ready for, remaking all of human society into its best possible
right.
form.
Bring
Yeah.
you to that utopia stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and I don't know. To me, it tracks a lot like your journey of like thinking about society and livability and all that stuff, and like how you can change things here in Portland. Um, so yeah, that's a great bio. And I was going to intro you as a famous bike cop because a lot of people are fans of the Bike Squad on Instagram, and they do great stuff. Maybe I'll put a clip in here, but yeah, that's a good little background. I was going to start with this is kind of dumb, and I'm not going to age you, but you recently had a birthday,
Yeah.
and I just a topical thing because there's like this kind of ageism conversation with city council right now. And if people aren't familiar, I'll put the headline up. Like the most famous one was like our city council president kind of, I would say, like publicly shamed a 95-year-old person. But I'm just curious, like your thoughts on that. Do you see that as like problematic?
Yeah. I mean, you know, uh,
Is
let's
age?
say you don't know the age of the person, right? Maybe he didn't. Although I think when you get a handwritten letter, you got to be a little suspect.
Yeah.
But, this person's a constituent, they're a resident, they say something you don't agree with. Um, I think you ignore it, or you say, thanks for the advice, and you move on. I know, in my job, people will tell me they're going to find and kill my kids. And have to still just carry on, I don't get to enter into a fight with them because I don't like what they're saying.
You can't clap.
So,
You can't clap back even as a police officer.
yeah. So I'm very used to people saying crazy things to me. And, I always like to, right? What's the best case scenario here? Let's assume good intent. But I still think it's poor judgment to, nobody grabbed you. Nobody
Yeah.
hurt you.
Yeah.
They said something you didn't like, and
Yeah, and I think elected officials, especially, there's a higher standard there, and it's like that
Yeah.
kind of stuff's beneath them, in my opinion. But it's like, yeah, especially if they're constituents, you don't want to like kind of target somebody in that way. And
well, and to blast them online like
right, yeah,
by
and I think,
name.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think a lot of the details of the person's identity
Yeah.
were in there, so it's just But I think there's a lot of people talking about this stuff with like some of the younger counselors and just ageism and. It is interesting to me because it is like a protected class. It's you can discriminate on age, and it seems like there's some of that going on. But yeah, I was just curious your thoughts on that. And otherwise, I was going to move on to what do you think is the most important thing, like after seeing the first few years of this council, that needs to change?
My big disappointment is sense of urgency. Because I think we're dealing with very serious things that require fast action to avoid them becoming worse. And we haven't seen much happen. I think a big part of that's just there hasn't been any sort of consensus behind what to do. But I guess an anecdote, when I became a helicopter pilot, it's very hard to hover. And
Just stay in one place.
yeah, it takes you 10 hours of flying time before you can manage a hover safely, and it's one of the harder things to figure out because everything you do creates side effects that also have to be sort of predicted and managed. And so I'm with my instructor pilot, and he hovers for a second. He gives me the controls, and he's like, "All right, you do it." And helicopter starts tipping back. I put a huge forward, input into the cyclic. Now we're tipping too far forward. We sink down. I pull a bunch more power. Now we're rising too high. Torque effect. Now we're spinning. We're turning to the right too, and we're starting to drift to the right. And he takes the controls back from me, and he just puts like a finger on top of the cyclic, and he just makes these tiny inputs. But because he can react faster and he understands what's happening, he makes these tiny little inputs, and it hovers perfectly. And so one of the things you learn is that the longer you wait, the bigger the input you'll have to make, the bigger the side effects of that input. And so looking at our, multi-year budget problems, this slide doesn't have to arrest itself. And the longer we wait, the more drastic the measures will probably have to be, the harsher the side effects. And so I think dealing with our city budget, with livability issues and the business environment, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we've really tackled them in any meaningful way. So that makes me seriously concerned for where we're going. And the doom loop thing everybody was talking about. Some cities have pulled out of these scenarios fairly quickly. Others have taken decades, and it's kind of up to us to read the situation, make the inputs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there like one? I have a good segue, but I was before I do that. Like, is there a good or is there like one particular area of that? Is it like business, like economy, homelessness, or just all? It's across the board. It's just there's no urgency kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is across the board, and I think it does have to do with the absence of consensus. There's not a majority pulling any specific direction. You really need one.
Yeah.
And especially with the mayor not having a vote. So the The big immediate concern, I think, is the budget.
Mm-hmm.
The budget problem is being driven by the business environment,
Right.
which is being affected by taxes and livability issues. And so there's no shortage of things that need addressing. They kind of, to act quickly, they all need to be addressed
Yeah.
as soon as we can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the sort of like nobody can land on the same page, because I was just reading yesterday this, and I actually didn't know they were going to do this. I brought this up like 2 or 3 months ago that Portland City Council, as it exists today, doesn't have like agenda setting or like a priority setting, and I think they recently just did it with this like retreat thing. I'll put the headline up, but it was, I don't know if it's really what most city councils do in goal setting, but this was like they hired a firm or like some agency or something to do it from, I think, Texas. But basically, at least Sophie's take in the Willamette Week was like they didn't, she called it wish casting, but it sounded like they didn't really, they went through this whole thing, this retreat thing, and like didn't kind of have any clear set of priorities. So it seems like that lines up with what you're saying of like there's no agreement on what the city should focus on, which is kind of amazing to me, because like to me the problems are pretty clear.
Yeah.
Like in Portland, right? I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, my segue was going to be like, I've been doing all these episodes on the Chamber economists said Portland is in a recession and the city recession. I was going to ask, first of all, do you agree with that? And why do you think that's the case if you do agree with that?
I mean, where do you set the threshold for recession? I'm sure they have a specific number, but yeah, we're seeing tons of vacant storefronts. We're seeing businesses leave downtown, and budget cuts at city and county. Mm-hmm. So certainly we're in a downturn. Yeah. I don't think there's any getting around it. My big worry is that a national recession will hit while we are kind of in this local one and compound it, because other cities aren't necessarily experiencing this right now.
Yeah.
And so if we have created a local recession, Oregon typically does worse than most states in national recessions, or has historically. So, I mean, that could be a real nightmare scenario. And we are long overdue for a national recession. So
yeah, because I think Oregon's unemployment right now is like in the 5% range, and the country is like 1% lower.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit more. But yeah, I totally agree. Like, if the whole country were to go there, we'd probably be 2 percentage points higher as far as unemployment and all that stuff, and it's not good. But what do you think? This is kind of a shot at somebody, but I was gonna say, what's the biggest negative impact on our economy if it's not who I call our anti-economist, Mitch Green? And you don't have to comment on that. That was my own kind of commentary. But like,
what's the biggest negative impact on our local economy?
Yeah, and I was also thinking when you were just talking a second ago, like you have a kind of a front row seat to a lot of the issues that businesses have as far as just operating. But like, is there a clear first step you would take for helping those businesses or any size business?
The livability issues on the street are tough. I think we're making improvements on them, which really comes down to setting expectations and enforcement. So back around 2021, the city wasn't enforcing. We weren't doing camp cleanups. We stopped doing a lot of types of traffic stops, disbanded the traffic unit. The general, moment was just hands off, right? Measure 110 kicked in. And so those things have all changed since. And that doesn't like flip the switch immediately. But I think we are seeing gradual improvements in issues like public drug use and entrenched camps, right, with the camp cleanups. And so I think we're making some progress there. I think we're limited in the rate. Like, we can keep making some progress, but we will probably level out before too long with the, staffing numbers for police, with deflection instead of jail, with with the requirements for camp cleanups. So we'll probably run into some barriers on that front. I think there's lag time in public perception that's built in, which makes sense.
Yeah. Because I've heard from people, I don't feel this way, but I've heard from people that they're like, all the stuff you just talked about, they feel like is still not happening,
Yeah.
like drug recriminalization and some of this stuff. And I agree with you, like, that kind of stuff takes time. It doesn't just overnight.
Yeah. And I know there's spots that probably have not gotten better, or they've gotten worse, because these things tend to move when you put pressure on them. But speaking specifically to District 4, and the West Side and downtown in particular, I have seen improvement. I cannot find 60 people actively using on a single block anymore. I cannot find somebody carrying a kilo of fentanyl pills walking around downtown selling on the streets at this point. And I've been involved in the sort of camp cleanup effort to get people to go into shelters. And even though camps keep popping back up, the total number has gone down. And especially just, they can become very entrenched with lots of garbage and other issues that sort of pop up, especially as they become stable. So, yeah, I think there's progress there. But we're going to be capped by available labor. Right. And so I think outside of that, our tax situation is making things difficult for us. Beaverton and Hillsborough and Vancouver, we have suburbs that are doing better. So it's not, I think in the recent report that came out, it was the Econ Northwest report, like we're in sort of an unusual situation where the metro area is doing, say, okay, but the city at the core is doing poorly. And, that means it's not regional factors at work. It's something specific to what's going on in Portland.
Yeah.
And so we really need to look for opportunities to deal with our tax burden. We need to make sure we're spending our money effectively. And, we've got difficult permitting system. We've got high fees. It's going to be very tough in a budget crisis, but, long run, you can't pay for all these things we want. You can't pay for progressive ideals if you don't have taxes, and you don't just get them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of have to create that environment for people to want to move here and all the livability like components that go along with that before you can collect that money. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, my mind's blown. Like one of the reasons that I was kind of making a dig at Mitch there, I make digs at him at like every show because I don't like him, but I was blown away that like when we recriminalized hard drugs with 110, I was recently watching the old Willamette Week thing, and he was like opposed to that.
Yeah,
which blew my mind. I was like,
oh, at least half of the candidates for city council were opposed, and it'd be interesting if you asked them now.
I think they would probably have a different answer, but I just didn't even. Like, I've never heard from anyone who was in opposition to that.
Did the Oregon legislature do the right thing by recriminalizing hard drugs, including fentanyl?
Yes.
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 No.
No.
Okay.
Because it just seemed like a 90-10 issue that everyone acknowledged, we needed to change. And obviously the state legislature.
The people who were opposed too kept constantly saying, you're going to fill up the jails. You're going to arrest all these people. That hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Right? Because you begin to gain more voluntary compliance. People stop doing it in your face, at least as often, when there are penalties. When there's no penalties, you end up with giant crowds of people using in public.
It's kind of like, I was going to ask you to kind of walk people through. I wrote down, like, what are you seeing on the ground as far as that stuff? But, like, I think maybe for some people it's hard to track all the changes with how that policy, like how we deal with hard drugs and that recriminalization that passed. Can you just walk people through like that process of what that looks like now?
Yeah. After HB 4002, which basically ended Measure 110, It became a crime again to possess illegal drugs. And so now police have probable cause to stop you, put you in handcuffs, find out what's in your pockets. And so there's that immediate sort of penalty. They find out if you have a warrant. They find out if you're carrying a gun and you're a felon, or, it leads to a lot of other things actually, which is very useful. But county put in place, so the counties had an option to create a deflection system. You didn't have to. Some counties didn't. They just said, yeah, we'll just recriminalize and that's fine. Other counties all came up with their own systems. Multnomah County's is probably the most permissive. And so if a police officer stops you and you have, half gram of meth on you or something like that, and you are not on parole or probation, you don't have other criminal charges, you don't have a warrant, basically if it's just the drugs, then they ask you if you want to go to the deflection center. And the county stood this thing up, drive you over there, take the handcuffs off, and just hand you over. At the deflection center, they try to do an interview with you and recommend follow-on things that you should do. You don't have to stay. You can just walk out. And so...
You don't even have to stay to listen to, like, the recommendation?
No, you do not.
Okay.
You can just walk out. And...
but you have to set foot inside?
You're brought in handcuffs.
Okay, gotcha.
But once those handcuffs come off, you can just leave, which I think is a problem. And ultimately, the best solution here is to get somebody who's an addict. And if you're using, on the sidewalk or whatever, if you're getting caught, you probably are an addict. Best scenario for them, best scenario for the community, everybody, is you get treatment and, you get past this addiction. And it's very hard to deal with an addiction to fentanyl, right? And so I think people need a push. And that's not much of a push if you can just be like, I'm out of here, I'm going to go find more. So people who do stay, maybe they stay a couple hours and go through all this stuff, they get recommended, hey, you should go see your doctor about your leg infections. You should go stay in a shelter, whatever.
It's kind of supposed to be a comprehensive,
yeah,
here's all the things we recommend.
If they do anything, stay in a shelter for a night, if they go see the doctor, whatever, the county calls that a success. To me, you got brought here for an addiction. Those may be nice things that, need to happen and should be done. But I think for most people, they would see success as you went through a drug treatment program.
Right. Yeah.
All the way through, successfully.
Yeah. To me, that was even with the original 110, that was the intent of laying out this treatment, which wasn't even really part of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what I think of when I think of helping people with an addiction or getting treatment.
When we got this idea that the nicest thing you can do for somebody is let them do whatever they want. And, that's often not the case.
Yeah.
If I had a fentanyl addiction and I was laying on the sidewalk downtown, please make me go to drug treatment program. I don't want to die in an alcove. It's absolute misery people are living in. And, we kind of create perverse incentives too in all of this. So let's say you have terrible leg infections, which a lot of fentanyl users do. So you get these bad leg infections. They're not going to kill you. So people will have them for a long time. Well, jail won't necessarily take you if you have leg infections.
Because they'll
say, well, this needs medical treatment.
Yeah.
So you go to the hospital. So you may have felony warrants or whatever, but as long as you don't actually fix this bad leg infection, you don't have to go to jail for your warrants. And so, that's not helping somebody who's not doing well.
Right.
So
you're kind of treating a symptom and not the actual problem, it seems like.
I mean, I think you're pencil whipping it. You're checking boxes, but not fixing anything. So I think that needs to be addressed. Ultimately, county's responsible. I know the DA is looking at prosecuting people who go to deflection and then don't do anything and following up later. Other counties have that kind of built in a little better.
Okay. Yeah.
But this is really a design problem. Basically, Multnomah County extended Measure 110 locally. It just involves a momentary, custody. But otherwise, it's just recommended stuff, and you do what you want.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never thought about it in that way.
No.
It is interesting because I had a thing on here about, because I saw, the DA is trying to address this with their tools that they have.
Yeah.
But that's what you just mentioned. They're looking into those options.
The real power over how this works is the county commissioner or the county chair. And so it would be nice if county got on board with something else. Every person I know from my personal life who had a bad drug addiction and got better through court-ordered treatment.
Right. I've heard that a lot from people who have gone through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it took getting in handcuffs or going to jail or whatever, some kind of thing to...
You'll hear people say that they'll claim that like voluntary treatment's more effective, which is a pretty questionable claim.
Yeah.
It looks like they're about the same.
Yeah,
voluntary
that's what
and
I've heard. It's 50-50.
But how many people who have a serious addiction are willing to go to voluntary treatment at any moment? So we have this small group of people who might be willing to go voluntary treatment. They may have decent success rates, but involuntary treatment reaches the entire population. So we're not actually comparing similar groups.
I've also felt like, and maybe you guys put in the comments, I guess, if I'm full of BS, but I've always felt like, because I've heard that stat probably since like 2021, that the involuntary versus voluntary, and to me, those numbers are like pre-fentanyl. Like it's got to be a study that was like from, I don't know, 15 years ago or something.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see which specific substances
like heroin or some old
they're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, heroin would be really bad too. I mean, it's the same. It's an opiate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but alcohol, for instance, different substance. I had a conversation with a very progressive guy who I really like, who was a former alcoholic, and he was opposed to involuntary treatment. And he was like, I eventually got clean and did it through voluntary treatment. I said, okay, how long from the time where you needed to get treatment to the time you got it? How many years? And he said 10 years. I said, the 22-year-old who's on the sidewalk downtown using fentanyl does not have 10 years.
Right.
So substances are different.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Like fentanyl, you're kind of rolling the dice every time you use it. Whereas alcohol, you can, do a lot of damage to your liver over 2 decades or 3 decades, but it's not the same as like, I'm sure you see all the time people getting Narcaned left and right.
And even if they survive, like the anoxic brain injuries, they can still have immediate lasting damage, even though they're still alive and walking around.
Yeah. I was trying to Google this because I saw a story about something, but I was curious if you'd heard about, I forget the street name for it, but they're saying there's some new street drug that's like, it's not trank, it's something new after fentanyl.
What are they? This is the fentanyl meth combination.
I guess maybe, I don't know. I can't even remember the slang I heard.
I saw somebody use the term for that recently.
I think that's what it is.
So street drug users are using meth and fentanyl. Now, deliberately mixing them, taking it at the same time, I don't know how common that is.
Okay.
But it's been true for a while that people who are kind of at that point that you see in Chinatown sitting on the sidewalk using, generally will use either one.
Okay.
Whatever,
Yeah, because it's strange to me. I don't know. I've talked on the show before. Like I did a lot of drugs in my 20s, but they seem opposite because like one is like an upper, and one's not. But I guess that makes sense if you're trying to like.
I've had people tell me that that's how they're guaranteeing they don't overdose.
Okay.
Yeah, they're like, no, I'm safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna Google that and see if. I'm just curious what the street name is. It had a funny name, and I was like, okay. I was gonna ask you, what do people not understand about Portland Police Bureau and just police in Portland in general? Is there like a one top thing? Because you were mentioning to me, and I will do a ride along with you at some point. But you're just saying like it changes people seeing what actually goes on.
I don't think most people understand policing very well at all. I know I didn't. And I only became a cop because I went on a ride along. And my impression of cops, from high school on was, this is a high school football player who maybe he's not a big academic and is looking for something to do. And,
Yeah.
I did not have a good impression of it. And I went on a ride along and I was really surprised. It is the most like human of jobs, because you really are dealing with the frailties of human beings in every conceivable kind of situation. And I was really surprised by the agency the police officers have to to do good, to identify problems. On my ride along, the thing that really surprised me was I went to a call where somebody there was a belief that this guy might be suicidal, and we get there and the police officer starts talking to him, and it turns out the guy's not suicidal, but he's probably very depressed and having a rough time. And the police officer talked to this guy for an hour, and I was just stunned that he just decided that this was a worthwhile thing to do, that somebody in the community ought to do, and he just did it.
You're right. You didn't need to like ask for permission or anything.
No, he was like a trusted agent to like assess what was needed.
Use judgment. And
yeah, and it went from that to trying to catch a murderer to dealing with some like homeless issue. It was just all over the place. But that agency to decide what matters to you is really amazing.
Yeah. Does that also feel like one thing I always talk about in here is like the remote culture we live in now, and like I feel like that's probably one of the jobs with the most human contact, like just by default. And a lot of people, I think, just inherently now in society are just very antisocial because of technology and all these other things. But does it feel like that? Like you're just really in touch with the community because you have to be talking to people, like, and dealing with people constantly.
Well, I mean, whenever there is a breakdown in personal relations, in policy, somebody calls 911, and it's very interesting. You come home from work every single day with so many stories, so it's fascinating. If somebody wants to be like a novelist, do 4 years as a police officer. The amount and the detail of the content that you will be exposed to is unbelievable. The downside is, of course, that most of the time you're dealing with negative things.
Right.
And so
there's probably like, it's like majority tragedy, but then there's really special, like uplifting moments as well.
Oh man, when you get a positive moment, people can scream at me. I can see the worst thing. I'm fine. You throw some human kindness, unexpectedly in there. It's hard to handle.
Yeah.
It's so nice, so unexpected.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, finding a lost child, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's like the most, I don't know if hardcore is the right word, but like real human stories like every day that you're kind of experiencing.
And there's so many that it's funny. You just, they all start blending and you forget them, and then people remind you and you'll be like, oh yeah, that totally insane thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine, because it's like, even just doing this show, I talk to so many people, like I forget the conversations I have, but when it's like life or death and you're doing all this other stuff, that's like, I can't imagine that.
To anybody, I think every person should go on a ride along. Because firsthand experience changes how you can think about things, and it's something that touches everybody's life to some degree. And are your local police doing a bad job? Are they doing a good job? It's worth seeing. And even, how do calls come in? Right. What kinds of calls do people go to? Just having that little bit of familiarity, when you read a story, you can kind of process it differently.
Yeah. It's kind of unique. I was thinking, like, I know it's not like a private industry job, but it's just a unique kind of transparency where like anyone can just request to be like, I want to see what's going on, and you can just hop in the car or whatever's going on and do a ride along.
I've done a ride along with Portland Street Response before. Same thing. I just wanted to know, what's this look like from your end? And I think it's really important. I think elected leaders should absolutely do them.
Yeah, I've said that on the show before. Like, I think that should be a requirement for, and it may be in some cities in the country, but I think, it's like if you're going to have a lot of agency over the bureau or this department, like you should know what they're doing. And
that always bothers me to see city council fight about stuff and be like, none of you have ever come and seen this.
Right. Yeah.
So the camp cleanups, Mayor Wilson's camp cleanups, plus, having the outreach workers there to try to get them into shelter. There was the fight at city council over $4 million, I think.
Yeah, there's been a couple, I mean, with the budget, and then there was, I think the one you're talking about, but yeah.
And it's like, is this humane? Is this not humane? Is it effective? It's free. Just come look.
Right.
I don't know why you wouldn't. And the same for county commissioners and deflection. The second it rolled out and you're making $20 million decisions, go look at it.
Yeah.
And to the mayor's credit, he does.
He's on the ground checking it out.
He is very interested in how it's actually functioning. And, I think we in Portland have had some mayors before who cared about the public messaging and public perception, but weren't that invested in how it was actually working.
Right. Operating it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just hoping people would be happy.
Yeah.
So, credit to Mayor Wilson. I think he actually cares about, what's happening on the ground.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of a good segue. Maybe I was going to ask you about, my order is kind of messed up here. First of all, before I get off the public safety stuff, I've been seeing, I don't know, 2 or 3 big news stories about these big HVAC thefts, and they're usually trying to get copper. I'm just curious, is that like a new trend, or is that just always been, I know people like scrap metal's always been a thing, but
I don't know about HVAC specifically, but scrap metal has been an issue. I think both Portland and Seattle have recently had like light rail go down because somebody stole the copper wires.
It's just a constant thing. Like if it's accessible, like to people, they're gonna try to get at it.
There are some people who are all about it. Portland has lots of burglaries and has almost no resources devoted toward trying to address those. And the people who are doing this are doing it over and over and over again. So figuring out who they are, putting serious charges on them is important. And then, these scrap metal yards.
What can you do about those? I don't know.
Yeah. What, from a regulatory perspective, could you do to make sure that we aren't,
they're just buying a bunch of stolen.
Yeah. And they are.
Yeah.
And, how can we, again, the public has no interest in people selling stolen materials to scrap metal yards for cash.
Right.
And so I'd be curious to know how we can address that.
I'll put I wish I would have put this in my notes, but I'll put a headline in here. I saw a big news story too about some city is going through again catalytic converter thefts. And I was like, is that trending up again here? Or I don't know.
I haven't seen an uptrend. That big ring got broken up.
Busted. Okay, yeah.
And I think Oregon passed some new rules regarding catalytic converters.
Selling those, right? I think I remember something about that. Yeah.
But I haven't noticed an uptick.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember. I'll put the thing in here. There was some city where it was like there's certain model cars people are going after again because they're really valuable.
Yeah, somebody who's had their catalytic converter stolen.
Have you?
Yeah. I went to living room theaters at Cesar Chavez and Powell. It came out of the movie, and somebody taking my catalytic converter while I was in there.
Was it I know the Prius.
It was a Prius.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't take you for a Prius guy, but that's surprising.
Hey, it's
eco-friendly.
Fuel efficient vehicle.
Yeah.
Now it's my son's vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fun to deal with. Okay, I think that was all the kind of public safety stuff I had, but I was going to ask you about this. I talked about it on my last episode I did with Max, but this new council committee structure. So after the council president vote, and we have this new president, Jamie Dunphy, there's now this committee of the whole. I don't know if you know about this whole thing, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious your take on that. Like, because there's been a lot of conversation about like the committee structure wasn't working. I kind of agree with that, but I don't know if I think this is the best solution, but I'm curious your thoughts on.
Yeah, I don't know either. Really at this point, my hope is just to convince people that we need to build a consensus behind a point of view for how we move forward, which is why I'm running.
Yeah, nothing's going to work until you get that figured out.
Yeah, and I'm happy to see how it goes, but at this point, that's my main objective. Worry about the details.
I think that makes sense.
Later.
It's kind of like get a functioning body together before we can talk about like tweaking those kind of things.
I appreciate Max's in-depth analysis of.
I know
everything.
Sometimes he does stuff that like is too much for even me, especially like his. And I'm not trying to shade him, but like his graphics and stuff. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on here. Like I am pretty nerdy about this stuff, but I can't follow it. I mean, we kind of touched on this earlier, but I had two questions here. What are your thoughts on the first year of the new charter? And do you have any thoughts on the OGEC investigation for the public meetings law, which to my disappointment, the legislature just kind of changed. I don't know when that goes into effect, but
yeah.
But you have any thoughts on either of those things?
Yeah, the first year, I mean, yeah, we kind of did talk the lack of urgency,
right?
Is probably my biggest concern, and again the lack of a clear direction. Like we don't have like a team who's trying to move things.
Yeah.
We seem to be stuck 6-6 on everything we're doing, and so then I think we just end up worrying about all these little things or sort of side issues.
Well, one thing that I think you would represent really well is like, and as much as like I love to kind of banter about it with Max and stuff, like this city council in particular is just, I would just call them combative. Like they're just way into that. And I think sometimes that's a tool in a city council, but I think most of the time it just doesn't help Portland. And
it is disappointing to see how combative it is, and disagree.
Yeah, like I think the reason I said you would be good at representative of that is like you're a very civil kind of person in every manner of that word. And I wouldn't see you operating in the way that some of this.
Yeah. I really believe that like being friendly almost always pays dividends.
Yeah.
And, my early work life, everything, right? I was a soldier. They send you somewhere, they dump you into a group of people you don't know, come from all different backgrounds, have different beliefs. And then you just kind of have to be, you're effectively like family, friends. You got to be everything.
Right.
Because this is the group you're dumped with. And so
you might.
I've had members of the DSA and Peacock reach out and want to talk stuff. Sure.
Yeah.
I'll have coffee with you. I'll talk to you. Nobody's trying to be a villain, right? And some people have come to very different conclusions about what we should do than I have.
Yeah.
I've had very different opinions at different points in my life. So, I'm not going to hold that against them as a person. I'm going to advocate for what I think is right and, for what people would choose to vote for me for, right? Like to represent them. But, they're also representing people. And I think building closer relationships, even among the people who disagree, could be helpful. I think it makes more compromise possible. There's going to have to be compromise. So I would certainly, I'll say what I believe and then that's it.
Yeah.
And we'll take the vote.
Right. Kind of healthy debate is kind of the goal. Well, that's a good segue into, I was going to ask you, I ask a lot of people this, you mentioned this kind of 6-6 vote divide. And I bring this up a lot because I've just never seen anything like it. I've worked for some cities and seen their city councils operate, but like I've just never seen anything like this that I would call, I wrote on here, uses staff time to do political party work. And I've asked people that work for the city and stuff about it, and I don't know, I'm just fascinated with it. And I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that?
You mean like campaigning type work,
just
or
anything related to, I know they don't call it a party, the DSA, but like anything related to promoting that, it's just partisan, and that's not the type of government that it's supposed to be in the city. But even just the block voting and that kind of thing. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that stuff?
I mean, the DSA it's kind of unusual, right? Because it is, by its nature, it's like a very ideologically tight kind of thing. They're coming from a very specific perspective. And so when people sort of sign on to that, I think you can expect them to move in fairly lockstep. And I don't think that's normal in city politics. I obviously disagree with, I think, the priorities and the goals of the DSA. And I think that does kind of set up this hard divide, where you can't, of course you're not kind of freely crossing lines as much because you're on a team.
Yeah.
And that team is sort of separate from the council team.
Yeah. That's why I always say it's a partisan thing, because it creates this partisanship that you shouldn't see on city councils. And it just creates this party first mentality of like, we're going to go with this policy first because that's what we've agreed on as a party.
Yeah.
And it's just really unusual for city councils to do that. And it's usually like, it's in the charter. That's not how they're supposed to operate, but it just drives me crazy. That's why I bring it up.
I mean, like I said earlier, like I definitely have an idealistic bent.
Yeah.
And so like I get right there, like we're going to change society. We're pushing really hard for the specific thing.
Yeah.
But I think that can potentially get in the way of incremental progress, which I think is actually how we get better. It's actually how we get to those end points. We're not going to be able to jump the middle steps.
Yeah.
So,
and I was going to shout out, I always kind of mess up her name, Maya Harris from Road City Reform, because she did a whole piece about how that type of block voting and party voting actually differs from a lot of what the constituents would actually want in districts, which is just really interesting, because that's the whole problem I'm trying to highlight is like...
Yeah, I have heard from some people who voted, for a DSA candidate last time who said, I did not want a party. I was voting for this person. So I think there are people who are frustrated with that. And, every one of these headlines, I think when we have these deadlocked votes makes the public feel like this isn't working.
Right, totally.
And that's not good in a crisis. Yeah. And we're confronting a crisis.
Yeah, it just seems, like I think a lot of people see that and they're like, this is just gridlock. Like, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
Let me see here. I was going to ask, we talked a little bit about budget. I kind of ask everyone who's like talking city stuff on here about like how you just tackle that, because we're coming up into it. It's like a month away into the city budget process, but it's just, we're just facing a shrinking budget every year. And, you kind of touch on it already, but like, do you have like a magic plan to deal with that? Or it's just hard decision making?
There is going to be no satisfying plan. Long term, we've got to get the economy in a better place. We are going to have to make budget cuts in the short run. We found all this money recently, which is concerning. I think the city could use an independent citywide audit.
Yeah, not just Portland Housing Bureau, but
let's establish a broad baseline for the city. Long term, I would rather see taxes going to the general fund than these specific. Like we should fund things based on our priorities and needs, not however much money shows up here
Right.
goes to this thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's gonna be painful, no matter what. And
Well, do you have any? I had another thing on here about, people have so many different ideas about PSEF and like tapping into that, and it's already been tapped for a lot of different things as far as I know. But would you unlock that in any particular way, or?
So it's at least 4 times bigger than it was projected to be, and it's being used to plug holes. So I guess here's my analysis. First, people will ask, well, what about getting rid of it? And I don't think it's politically viable, right? I don't think there's the broad support to
untangling what we've already approved.
I think, generally the public likes the idea of having this clean energy fund.
Right.
And so we've got it. So, okay, what are we going to do with it? And right now it's going to a bunch of small programs. It's getting used to plug budget holes. There's the proposal from the police union to use it to increase the number of police officers.
And I was gonna say, I believe it just got packaged in with the big Moda Center. Some of that money was from PSEF. I could be wrong about that, but I think
PSEF money too. Moda
I think
Center.
there was some.
There may have been.
I think it was part of that deal, but
yeah. So I don't know if the police funding deal will pass. That will be interesting. We definitely do need more police officers. We're sitting at half the national average, and there's a labor requirement to responding to 911 calls, and people deserve to have an appropriate response in a reasonable amount of time, and that's not something we can reliably guarantee right now.
Yeah.
So I certainly support the idea of getting more police officers. That's going to take a while, no matter what.
Because recruiting was already a big challenge even before.
Yeah.
Now, I mean,
I think this is kind of funny because coming from somebody who works as a police officer, but I think we have to reckon with the fact that marijuana is legal. You're trying to recruit from a populace where now, let's say, half of people
I was going to ask you about
in
this.
the target age range at least occasionally use marijuana. You can imagine if you're trying to recruit cops in 1975 and you said you can't have had a beer in a year and you can never have beer again.
Right.
So
I was going to ask you specifically about that because I've thought about it over the years. Like when I first moved to Portland when I was 21, I was like, I'm going to become a cop. And I actually didn't smoke weed at that time. Mm-hmm. But since then, I've smoked a lot of weed, just being totally honest. And but I know that 1 year rule, and I'm like, again, totally honest, for me, that's hard to do. Like,
well, and if it's legal,
right,
for the public,
it's a state.
Is there a big reason why it shouldn't be allowed for police officers? Personally, I'd probably rather somebody took an edible now and then than drink a bunch of whiskey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's no reason to think it's worse than other things. Yeah. And so you're reducing the recruit pool by a lot. So the big obstacle is that the federal government has a requirement that people you shoot firearms to not be drug users.
That's a big part of that.
However, we just decided, okay, if they haven't smoked pot in a year, that's good enough. Right? But that seems pretty arbitrary.
Okay. I was just thinking,
how about a month?
So that's flexible.
And then you have like New Jersey, when they legalized marijuana, they banned all workplace testing, including by accident, for police officers. And this has gone to the courts several times, and they've been like, yeah, it's fine, essentially. So I think, it might be controversial, but I think there's some way you can work on that.
Yeah. So you're coming from me, but I think that's a great idea. And like I said, I didn't even write on here, but I was thinking about that because it's like, and I'm not like the one of the other reasons I've never seriously thought about it because I'm a short guy, I'm a short king. But the weed thing, I was just like, I've quit for months at a time, but like a year would be hard for me to do.
The other thing with the Clean Energy Fund, if we're going to have this thing and we want to do something that is environmentally beneficial, to me, the obvious thing to do with it is fareless transit. And so the reason why is if you look at TriMet, it's 95% funded through taxes already.
Right.
Fares are only covering this tiny last bit. It's almost fareless already.
Yeah.
And then
it's, like what, 20% or something of their, it's not a lot of their made budget.
I think the last year I looked at it was like $57 million was their fare revenue. PSEF's bringing in over $200 million a year.
Yeah.
And that's metro wide. That's not even just Portland.
Right.
And then they're spending millions of dollars on fare collection. You have fare enforcement, you have all these other things. But, you know, if you wanted a big, clear program that the public can, you know, wrap their heads around, that has a benefit, you know, you do fareless transit. It's an affordability gain for some people. It's a tourism gain. I went to Switzerland a few years ago, and if you stayed in a hotel there, you didn't have to pay to use the transit system.
Right.
And, you know, you fly to Portland for the weekend, don't rent a car, you know, brings people downtown. You have concerns about safety issues and behavior on the train and all this. Bringing in more positive behavior tends to help suppress the bad stuff.
Right.
And obviously we have to address that stuff, but let's enforce behavior instead of the fares. Let's put all our focus there. So I think that's something that would have strong public support, that the program could afford, and the public would get, you know.
And you're saying
get behind
citywide? Because I remember I used to live here when there was downtown Fairless Square, and that was pretty cool.
There's a few ways you could kind of, you know, how far you wanted to go in. So you could do like Burn, and you could do a tourism program that would be very inexpensive for people staying in hotels in the city. If you could, you know, if a low price point was where you got in, or you could start with that as a trial program, work out the kinks, and then build. You could do Fairless Square at like a medium price point, or you can go for the full thing. But no matter which one, PSEF actually has the funding necessary for it.
Yeah.
I think that's something that would have appeal to people on, you know, in the DSA, Peacock, and on the other side.
For sure. Yeah.
So, you know, finding points of agreement. It's interesting.
Yeah. I think it is. Yeah, I was gonna say I think it is one of the most applicable uses I've heard, because a lot of I think you can make an argument to use PSEF for almost anything, and tying it to its original earmarking. But I think that's one of the most, because there's people who I don't agree with at all that want to just remove cars from Portland entirely.
Right.
And that would actually, you know, that would like be something that they would want, is like, hey, let's increase public transit by having free fares. And so
hopefully you'd get more riders, you'd reduce road congestion, road maintenance, and there's a bunch of unused capacity on it already that we already paid for.
Totally, yeah. And it's like I talk about all the time, TriMet ridership still is way down from 2019 levels, but that's a great way to just immediately boost those ridership numbers. I would consider taking it if it was free, for sure.
You know, and when I tell people this, sometimes they're like, you know, they're concerned about the safety aspect and the negative things happening on there. Yeah, we have to enforce standards of behavior. Like either way,
right?
We should be enforcing the rules.
Yeah, and I actually agree with what you're saying too, because when I used to take it downtown to work all the time, different bus lines, and this was like in that era, like 2019, 2018, 2017, and there were so many people on it that it kind of takes care of that problem to some degree. And that's kind of what you're saying, is like when you just have a large number of people to kind of outnumber the problem folks, I guess. I don't know.
There was a problem at Southwest 5th and Oak a few years ago, stolen cars, drug dealing, all this stuff. And, you know, enforcement efforts made some progress, but to seal the deal and fix that block, what it took was sticking that new Midtown beer garden in there. And suddenly you had a bunch of people coming, eating lunch, doing things. Yeah, there was positive activity there, and that's what ended it. So, yeah, bringing in the good can help drive out the bad.
Nice. Yeah, I like that idea. We just covered a lot of the stuff. I did read on here today. I'm thinking about having them on here, but do you have any thoughts on the demolishing of Lloyd Center? I know the redevelopment plan just got approved, and this group, Save Lloyd, I think they're just called Save Lloyd. They really want to save the ice rink, like even if they destroy everything else, which I'm kind of into. You know, the mall to me has like, you know, nostalgic value back when there was tons of people there and malls were still a thing. But do you have any thoughts on that whole thing? Some people had said that like this redevelopment plan is just going to leave that whole area like leveled for, I don't know, a decade maybe before they kind of figure out what it actually is going to be constructed there.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious if you had any thoughts on that.
I have no
And
great
I know it's not your district
love
anyway.
of the
Yeah.
the Lloyds. I mean, I've certainly been there many times.
Yeah.
Skated on the ice rink. You know, I don't know. Not enough to strong feelings to be like
Okay,
change
okay.
the plans or
You're
they've
not
been
gonna
doing
be-
that pop-up ice rink downtown
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I was thinking,
it's cool to have one.
yeah, and they just renovated Memorial Coliseum where the Winterhawks play, and I was thinking that's like a permanent ice rink to some degree, but yeah, I don't know. I was just curious your thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't picture you like tied to the ice rink and like you're like, oh, this thing isn't going anywhere. Okay, I think that's kind of all my serious questions here, unless there's anything you want to
What do you got for non-serious?
throw in. Okay, I got a bunch of stuff in here.
This is for the dedicated viewers.
Yeah,
Make it to
so
the end.
you met. This is kind of tied into what you said at the beginning, I guess. I didn't know you were a sci-fi fan, but
Oh yeah.
I I could be wrong about this. Are you a tabletop nerd? Like you like tabletop games?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not, but I kind of knew that about you.
Are we talking board games or RPGs?
Yeah, board games, I guess.
Well, yeah, RPGs more, but
Okay, what is that? Like classic D&D?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there's a difference. That's how dumb I am with this stuff.
No, I games are great. You know.
Yeah.
PC games.
Oh, you like all of them? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big game. A lot of people don't know this about me, but in high school I had this whole like gaming website, and I still play games. Sometimes at some point I'll do an episode about it. But that's interesting. I didn't know that about you.
What kind of gaming website?
It was like an IGN ripoff, so
Okay.
I'd review console games and computer games and stuff like that.
Yeah. I had an RPG website back in 1995. You know, I had to like write the HTML by hand.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and I made all my graphics and
yeah.
stuff. And I'll put the link in here. Actually, you can find it on Wayback Machine, but I'll put the link in. It was called Geek Haven. But yeah, I had a whole writing staff and stuff. But is there anything else you want to say about that? I wrote down, have you ever been to a Ren fair? Are you like that nerdy about?
I have been to one. I went to the one in Canby a couple years ago.
Okay.
I was a little disappointed, but
Okay.
no, I don't.
It's not that to that degree of like.
No, I'm not. I'm not dressing up for anything.
Okay.
Or, I do like the games though.
Do you have a favorite? What's your go-to tabletop game if you have one?
Board or RPG?
Either one. I guess.
I've been playing Twilight Imperium
Okay. I don't even know what that is.
recently. It's famous for being very complex and
Okay.
taking a long time to play. But with some past city council candidates,
Okay. That sounds
people,
fun.
and boy, on the RPG end, I actually wrote one at one point, but
You're like way into it. It's just funny.
Yeah.
It's the total opposite of the game kind of game, like tabletop games that I like. But like when somebody tells me that, like
Yeah.
it's gonna take a long time and it's complex, I'm like, I'm out. Like I'm not.
what's your go-to?
I don't even know. I used to play Risk back in the day, but that's
Okay.
not even. I guess that's just strategy, right, or something, or I don't know what you'd call that.
Yeah, it's strategy.
Okay. But even that for me, it's like
I'm
takes a long time.
disdainful of Risk. I'm trying not to.
No, it's fine. Like
Yeah.
I don't really get into much of that, but okay. I mentioned this to you before we recorded, but do you have a dream bicycle or dream car? Is there anyone that's like, man, I really want that?
I don't. So
Any kind of vehicle?
I have an Aventon fat tire electric bike
Okay. I don't know what that
that
is.
can carry some cargo,
Damn.
and so that thing's fun. But I've never been a big car guy. I think the Black Hawk helicopter might have ruined me for vehicles.
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the.
Like what's
Ultimate.
going to compete.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and people ask me like, oh, why don't you go fly,
Is that yeah?
commercial or whatever? It's like, it'd be like going from Formula One to
I see.
Uber driver or
Yeah.
something, you know?
Or even if a lot of people just like recreationally fly like prop planes or something, that would
Which
just,
would be fun.
but again, it's not the same level of
Yeah. It makes
machine.
me, I'm not excited about another 100 horsepower on a car or whatever, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. This is a brand new question I never asked, but I wrote this down and I thought it was hilarious. Maybe it's not, but um, could a dog with two paws working together light a Bic lighter, do you think?
I don't think so.
It's got to have opposable thumb.
I don't know. You know, you need that, you got to press like hard.
On
You
the
got to
little
generate
roller.
like a hard thing on the roller. I don't know if a dog paw could get that force.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have an answer to that, but yeah, I think like what has opposable thumb? A raccoon or something?
Yeah.
I don't. Something like that could do it.
Yeah, you know, climbing things with opposable thumbs. I'm sure an orangutan do it no problem.
Okay. Okay.
You know?
All right. I asked this once before. I think this is a dumb question. I'm going to retire it probably, but I adjusted it a little bit. Let's say you had no electricity and no running water for 48 hours.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference between those two? Like if you could have one turned on?
Yeah, water.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely water.
Everyone always says, this is why I'm going to retire the question. It's kind of dumb.
I have gone extended periods with no,
I wrote down here, it's good. It's a good veteran question because I'm sure
Yeah.
you're dealing with like, you're living in a
say
tent or something.
I have been starved much longer than that before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That being said, makes you appreciate the luxuries.
For sure.
Yeah.
Creature comforts.
Yep. Nothing like hardship to really.
Yeah.
I remember coming back from Afghanistan the first time, and I was there 11 months before I got to come back for like a 2-week R&R.
Wow.
And just I walked into the airport and seeing paint on drywall. I was like, wow, we have such a fancy and amazing civilization.
Not
Just-
even the air conditioning.
I mean,
or-
all of it was
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
you know, I lived in a tent and we had like a little plywood building that we worked out of. And so it'd been that long, you know?
Just seeing like, you might even say an actual wall or something like that.
Yeah, that like, you know, I mean, effort goes into all of these things, making them nice, making them aesthetically pleasing, being in a world with women and children in it,
Right.
you know, and elderly people, because you're kind of in this
Yeah.
weird demographic slice. And yeah.
Okay. Do you have an animal or creature you're most afraid of?
Most afraid of.
I don't know why people almost always say snakes, bugs, or scorpions or shit like
Yeah.
that, but I don't know. Some people say
don't know.
cougars.
Bed bugs.
Okay, that's a good one. That's something like I've had friends that got them and they're really hard to get rid of. I've never had them, but
Yeah.
that's a good one.
Nothing. I mean, I've never had an animal cause me significant problems, but just imagining, you know, you stay at the wrong hotel or something, and now you're like
You got
throwing away every cloth item in your house.
Yeah,
That sounds
yeah.
really annoying.
for sure. Okay, I've asked you this when you've been on before, but is there a business or restaurant or something you want to shout out that you had a good experience
Man,
at?
there's lots. I had Matt's Barbecue at Prost again recently.
Is it the one on in North Portland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Prost is great.
Yeah.
The
I was there a
barbecue's
couple months
great.
ago, yeah.
But man, there's so many cool little places. I mean, that's really what's kind of neat about Portland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can go to these different neighborhoods and they've each got a ton of specific things that you can't find anywhere else.
Yeah.
Lately, KDC on 5th and Davis downtown.
Okay.
You can get like orange chicken with like kimchi
Oh.
and
It's like a fusion.
rice. Yeah, it's some. I don't know how long ago they opened, but
That sounds good.
it's.
I don't know how I feel about
I'm not a big
kimchi.
orange chicken person,
Really?
but I like this.
I'm
one
like
a lot.
the opposite. I like orange chicken, but not kimchi. But
Yeah.
you like kimchi and not orange chicken.
Normally, I'm not a big orange chicken person. I eat a little kimchi.
Okay.
I like it as like an interesting
It's
thing
like a
to
little,
eat.
just a bite, tiny bite of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like a side.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, obviously you are taking donations Where could people find that and do all that stuff?
Yeah. If you go to eliforportland.com, it's spelled out ELIFOR, portland.com. It's got it on there all over. Just click the donate link. And if you donate, the first $25, up to $25 is matched 10-1. So if you donate $25, the campaign gets $275.
Right.
And I'm trying to take the lead in
you've been
in
doing
District
well.
4 for donations. Yeah, right now I'm number 2 on donors and number 2 on funds. So it's just great for, one, for being able to afford all the outreach you need to do to people who haven't been paying attention late in the campaign. But also when you go into endorsements, newspaper interviews, people want to back a winner. And that is that, you learn things when you run for the first time. That is the number that people are looking at.
Yeah.
It's very
I would agree
helpful.
with that, yeah.
It's a huge viability indicator.
It's I would call it one of the maybe the best political barometer. I know a lot of people think that like money and politics are bad, but I was talking about it a couple episodes ago. Like a lot of those are small donors to you directly from the community, so it's like it's not.
Yeah,
this isn't like corporate money being thrown at you.
It's a nice thing about the system we have because, quite frankly, I wouldn't want to run in a campaign where I was just begging people for like $10,000 checks.
Yeah,
and I don't have to. If you donate $5, you make that number that everybody checks go up. I get $55, and we can make that work so regular people actually have a meaningful impact on who's got a shot at being elected. So yeah, it turns out there's kind of, there's two groups of people who decide who win elections, and it's people who donate and then it's people who vote. But, that first group really kind of helps decide who ends up at that end point. So
yeah,
I donate a lot more now than I used to. After the experience.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, and if you want to see what I would say is any kind of change in Portland city government or improvement in it, I would say support Eli. And I'm always harping on the local economy, and that's what I want to see change with. So if you want to see change there, support Eli. And thanks for coming. You're always welcome back, dude.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.